Welcome once again to Empathy Unbound, Embrace Your Superpower. Captain Kelly J. Gordon is an accomplished motor yacht captain, a social media influencer, and a public speaker. Her thirst for adventure has propelled her to become one of the busiest and most respected captains. A 500 GT master, a mental health advocate, a content creator, and, I was quite surprised to learn, a former chemistry professor. Kelly started her career far from the water as she grew up on a farm in small town Indiana. It was a drive to succeed, learn, and thirst for adventure that led to her career in yachting. Kelly loves to teach and to share what she knows with others, and likes to encourage and inspire those that dream of a career in the yachting industry. I have a huge amount of questions, so I guess I want to dive into it. So, Kelly, you're very welcome. Thank you for joining us from Florida today.
What what an amazing introduction. Yeah, thank you. And thank you for having me. And I'm so excited to be here. And I've never been introduced. Wow, I think I'm
Well, it's
speechless.
you, isn't it? There's no, I didn't make anything up. That's you. And so then the first thing I wanted to ask today was, what helped create the person that's been kind enough to join us today?
My mom. My mom and her support and the values she instilled in us and and everything that I have experienced or gone through, good or bad, up or down, in my past 43 years has all been a huge, tremendous part of creating who I am today. And I have been saying for a few years now, I am the happiest I have ever been. And it was all of those experiences along the way that have ultimately shaped who I am today.
I guess good and bad. I guess that's the thing, isn't it? All the things, as long as we learn from the bad things or accept them, life's never perfect, but
Good or
if we
bad
can
things
learn
have
from
to
them.
be bad, though. Can we
Well, not
can
necessarily
we
bad.
flip the script? And I see this in some of my talks.
Mhm.
Can we flip the script? And that was something that my mom always taught me. She was like, "Well, what 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 good can you find in XYZ situation? What can you learn from this?" And that's something I've always been able to do, but I wouldn't have been able to, I don't think, do it without my mom having taught me and having kind of that frame of mind or way of thinking. So I call it flip the script, and that essentially means turn the negatives into positives. There's always a silver lining. There's always something that can be learned.
There
So
is.
does it always have to be, I guess, yeah, things can be negative and they can really suck and be really hard
Hmm.
and I've gone through some tough times, but at the end of the day, that's what's made me who I am. And I was able to glean so much out of those maybe negative experiences to where I am.
So is it just you and your mom at home, or do you have siblings?
I had siblings. I had, yeah, and mom and dad was crappy. Yeah,
Yeah.
dad wasn't dad wasn't a good one. But she's a buy one get one for free. She's an all in one size fits all is what mom is. Mom was dad together, and but even sometimes people may say, oh, that's too bad that you and your dad don't have a relationship, or you should make amends. Because I actually a lot from my dad. I learned resilience. I learned toughness. I learned what was right and what was so what are the positives out of this negative?
Yeah.
And great siblings, crappy dad, but I learned a lot.
So how do you make this step from growing up on a farm in Indiana, which those people that don't know, doesn't have a coastline, and end up on the open water as a super yacht captain?
Um, Question, because if you look at the United States, you'll see that Indiana is essentially smack in the middle of the country. So it's like the
Yeah.
furthest you can get. And so I had grown up on a farm, and wanted to be a veterinarian all my life. And at the age of 15, largely because school, school kids, bullied a lot. And so at the age of 15, I said, Mom, I just can't do this anymore. And I gotta say, I was 15, and in the United States, you can't drop out of high school until you're 16 without the significant. So my mom had to go in physically into the office and sign me out for me to be out of high school. And it was the best decision that my mother could have ever made. And I'll just say too, when I was in that office in the principal's room, the principal looked me dead in the face and said, "She will never amount to anything." So, looking at me saying that to my mom. And I remember that moment. And look at me now.
Yeah.
And so, smartest decision my mom ever made with me. So I went on, and I was 15, went on to take care of things. And I ought to go back to college. So I started college at the age of 17, decided that I would take the prereq, start working on becoming a veterinarian, and got my undergraduate degree in chemistry and got into veterinary school the first time. Is unheard of in the US. And went for 6 weeks and quit. And I was not, it was the first time I had to move away from home.
Yeah.
I was struggling with the lungs. I didn't feel that I should be there. And I wasn't quite sure how I was going to afford it. And so I quit. That wasn't such a good idea. And I said, well, you have your bachelor's in chemistry, go get your master's in chemistry. Is that maybe what you do? So I did. I moved to the coast of the United States in North Carolina and started a program in getting my master's. And upon graduation from my master's degree, got a teaching job, which I had never intended to be a teacher, but I do remember one remark that I made in my senior year of undergrad. I had a great teacher, and I know if I am ever a teacher,
Right.
I want to be as good as her. Which is interesting that I say that. Oh no. Which is interesting that I say that because I had never intended on being her. And so I did. I got a teaching job right out of grad. And there was a student. She was non-traditional, meaning that she was coming back older for a second career. And she was a huge part of this town. I didn't know anything about the town. I didn't know that it was a tourist town, a major port on the eastern seaboard for yachts as they transited north and south. I just didn't have any idea where I lived and how beautiful and amazing town that I was living, because I was just going to work and coming home, coming home. So she said to me, I'm going to sneeze. She said to me, let me show you around town. And I said, okay, I said, I can't go while a student of mine, the conflict with grades and that kind of thing. And I really kind of kept brushing her off, blowing her off, because I just went to work, came home, went to work, and she kept asking, well, let me show you around the town. I didn't know she was like a really big integral to this little town. She was on some boards of the town, community member. So finally I gave in and I said, okay, I'll go, but it's after grades are turned. So lo and behold, she held me to it. Grades, she says, come on, we're going out. And I said, okay. And I kind of went begrudgingly because, believe it or not, I still am an introvert, but now I call myself an extroverted. And so we went to a party on this yacht. And I did not know what a yacht was. And as we're walking, I said to her, is this a yacht? And she says, it is. We get to the edge of the dock, to the sea stair, and climb up. Andrew will never forget the moment I stepped one foot on. I said, this is what I want to do. I didn't know bow from stern, but what what I knew is that this is what I wanted to do. I want to be a yacht captain. I didn't even know what a yacht was. I knew that's what I wanted to do.
How did you know that? You literally, it's sort of almost forced yourself to go out with this girl that wanted to show you around town, and then you stepped off the dock onto this boat, and then you decided the next 20 years, 25 years of your life. How did you know that?
It was a feeling.
Yep.
It was a very interesting energy that hit me. I mean, I had one foot on the back deck, foot was still on the sea stair.
Oh,
And
good.
I just looked around and I said, this is what I want to do. And it was just a feeling that I had. I've always loved the water. I
Yeah.
loved heavy equipment, if you will. I've always loved engines, always loved fixing things. And I very noticed that a yacht was very much a piece of heavy equipment, if you will.
Yeah.
And then when I was able to room, I remarked to the captain, I was like, these are tractors. These gauges that are on these are the same thing as we see back on the farm on tractors. And so just as I had the opportunity to spend more and more time on it, this has shown you what I was around and operated on the farm. And I like fixing things and I like doing things with my hands. And I've always been drawn to male-dominated careers. I was a welder for a while and loved that. And so this it fit me. It fit my body. It still amazes me every time I tell this story is I didn't even know what a yacht was. So how did I know that I wanted to be the person that was going to do that daggone thing? But there was just something, and I said, this is what I want to do. And the captain, as we got underway, said, I can drive this. Goes, and he looks at me quite a bit miffed and says, really, you think so? And I said, yeah, I think I can. Because as I watched it, I was like, this operates very much like any other heavy equipment piece. And so he says, well, if you think you can, come back, girl. And I went, oh, but in my mouth completely. So, well, he called me on my bluff. So I had to go the next day. And there it went. He saw somebody. We had this conversation many years later. And I said, well, wing. And he says, you see the kind of drive that you have so often anymore. You don't see. And he says, I liked the energy, the curiosity you had about yourself. And he says, I wanted to help you. And so here we are 16 years later.
And is it what you desired when you put that one foot onto the boat? Is it, yeah, this is what I thought it would be. This is exactly how I thought life would be.
I didn't know what it was like.
No, that's true.
No. It all just started unraveling, or like unraveling in a good way.
Yeah.
It started not the right word, but what I'm trying to say. It all started coming to me. And then as we started learning and we started traveling, and I'm like, wow, I get to go to some real places in the world. I get to meet some really amazing people. This is introducing me into a lifestyle that I never could have imagined, growing up in North Central Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
Evolving. It all started evolving.
Yep.
And I didn't even think of a brand. Like now I have a brand, or I guess you could say I am a brand, and then this public speaking and then also still trying to be able to scratch my itch of being able to teach within the yachting industry. Like, no, I had no clue.
So once you sort of settle down, had the training, Learn, tell, and to know. So what would you, looking back now, what do you say that the key skills are that you need to have to be a captain of a multi-million-dollar yacht?
That's a really, really good question. Almost a loaded question because yes, you need to be an excellent boat handler. Yes, you
Yep.
need to be navigate. Yes, you need to be able to read weather. 10% of my job.
Yeah.
And that's probably a generous estimate. The other 90% of my job is what I like to peopling. And I said in one of my talks last week is department heads or captains or CEOs, whatever you want to call them. They rise to the top of their rank because they're good at their skill set. They're
Mhm.
craft.
Yep.
Nobody tells us, hey, you're only going to spend a small portion of your time on your skill set, on your craft. The majority of your time is going to be spent peopling. And so, yes, I need the boat handling, I need the nav, the weather. But what I really need with people to be able to lead, not manage, to be able to lead, able to inspire. That is what you need as a because the rest of it is just such a small percentage of your job and what you do.
Mm. It's really interesting you talked about that. It's one of the not sure what it is to translate. One of the bugbears, one of the annoyances I have is that we find somebody that's wonderful at their job. We find somebody that's an amazing salesperson, and so we promote them. But they have to then manage and specially lead people, and they aren't trained, aren't educated, aren't guided. They're very, very good at what they do, but aren't necessarily that peopling skill. Was it something that came naturally to you, the sort of handling? I mean, it's going to be crew, it's going to be clients, it's going to be potential clients, it's going to be the Coast Guard. There's so many people, you have to deal with so many people and lead them all. Was it something that came very naturally as an introvert?
In a roundabout way, yes. Because when I was young, and I still am an introvert, like I say, I'm an extroverted. And um, when I was young, I was full on introvert. I was quiet. I didn't engage. Just found my happiest moments in solitude, animals, and my
Mhm.
mom and my sibling. That was it. But I also became very anxious and somewhat depressed at an early age, and somewhere about third grade, I started really developing interest in why people communicated the way they do, cause and effect, with communication and people's actions and responses and that kind of thing. I asked my mom for Christmas for a self-help book, for lack of a better term. Um, and this was, no, wait, it wasn't that one. The very first book that I asked for was an textbook as a third grader. I was interested in why people so I got this interpersonal communications textbook and started reading third grader. And then for Christmas, I asked mom for another book, which I didn't know. I was in third grade, so I thought self-help was the category. And then and I also knew that I just was, look, when you're young and you're in school, it's hard. People are I grew up physically. Like I grew up, I got boobs in it, like when they weren't cool. And I remember this one girl used to always call me Porky. And so like it was hard. And so the combination of wanting to understand why people acted that would also wanting to kind of help whatever I had going on at such a young age in my head, I just started studying naturally interpersonal communication. And, as I went through life, just kind of sad, reading self help books, growth books. And I think that really really helped and really gave me the foundation. People do and say the things that they do. And so while I say that leadership is not innate, there's always had this inner desire to want to know more. And so as I went throughout life, I was just very curious, and I liked sharing my own experiences and trying to inspire people. And it wasn't until I got through my stuff when I was 26, I got really, really depressed, decided that I wanted to take my own life. And it didn't work out. And after that, after I put the work and got better, after all of that, I said, I have one person to live. If I can just get one person to understand that that is get better. If you put the work in, it does get better. And it is so because I'm so happy now. In all my experiences and my early studying on and on, I just fell into kind of leadership. I, I wanted to lead. I wanted to inspire people. I wanted to encourage people. I wanted to see did I mentions of it as a third grader reading that in a Aspirations textbook from front to back? No. Um, but it's interesting now that I tell this story because this is the first time I've really been asked this, and you've really made me go way back here. Interesting to me as I hear myself say this. Did I have intentions of leading, of inspiring? But yes, because after I got through my own junk in my own head and see how beautiful life can be, to really take those negative times and turn them positive, to share that with everybody. Does that answer your question?
It answers it in a much more empowering and practical way than I could have imagined. So thank you for sharing that. I want to give, first of all, a huge kudos to your mum for buying you those books. Because you can imagine the mum of a regular mom saying, "I always have this comic book. What are you talking about?" But actually giving you those books and letting you learn those things. Yeah. Do
She hasn't
you?
missed a Christmas yet. I get some sort of self-help or self-growth or personal communications every Christmas and third grade. What is that? 9?
You must have run out. You must be running out of the books to read, for goodness sake. And did you? It's funny, isn't it? So I suffer from depression and have therapy and medication, and since I was sort of 30 years, I guess. And so would you say you're? I hate the word, but so are you cured of depression, or do you just know what to look out for now to sort of try and manage when you get into that stage?
No, I'm not cured of it. I know how to manage it. I know
Yeah.
how to manage it. And uh, really good question. So I thought that in my young adult years was very depressed, and my worth rested in the hands of a man. And I thought, and I think that there to some issues with really having a present father, a supportive father, not really knowing what a proper relationship looks like, and probably wanting the acceptance of my father. I subconsciously sought out the acceptance, and ironically would would seek out men like my father, and I wanted out men that were like him to get their acceptance, to fill a void, to fill something was going on subconsciously. So I went through a series of bad relations, and in fact, I got married thinking that it would fix it. A combination of trying to fix this and a combination of, well, society says that, you go to school, you find a job, you buy a house, you have kids, and have a husband and kids, then valuable, as worthy. So I got married, didn't work. Got married again. Thought I would get married again, and I'm like, I'm certain the second go around is going to fix me. And it was during that marriage I decided I was going to take my life. So all through this time, I was really depressed, trying to reach out and fix it and speaking N-word. As many self-help books as I've read. I hadn't had it out yet. So, my both husbands were in the military, and my second husband was special forces. So you can imagine, and us being American, you know how we are with our guns. I have guns everywhere, and we go to the rifle range and we shoot and we practice. And I grew up on a farm like that too. And he was getting ready to deploy, and he had to the rifle range. He was very adamant about me being able to protect myself. And we had used all the rounds, all the bullets, and forgotten. And very surprisingly that he had forgotten, because he's special forces and he everything that we needed in the house, and So, and again, to anybody, it's a very American thing, very country girl kind of thing. So he deployed at the bottom of the barrel, and there had been many times before that I had thought about committing suicide. And to me was, how could I do this to my mom? Do this to my siblings? How could I do this? Leave my animals behind? Well, this got so bad that I didn't care. I didn't care if I was leaving my animals behind. At 2:00 in the morning, I open I go to chamber it, and there's no round. I realized that we had gone to the rifle range a week prior, didn't buy any more rounds. So at 2:00, I remember this so vividly. I opened the closet door. There's bifold doors. I right door. I'm one into my pants. I'm going to Walmart, because at 2:00 in the morning, where do you find rounds? So I'm going to Walmart at 2:00 in the morning to buy them, because I'm doing that. Can't live anymore. I just can't do it anymore. As I'm one thing snaps, and I said to myself, don't do that. Something is off biochemically. Obviously, something's going on situationally. You are not in a good marriage. You're not in a good relationship. Depressed. Don't do this. And honestly, I somewhat attribute my chemistry degree, because I was in grad school, almost finished master's. Attribute my chemistry degree to this, because I was able to say to myself, logic was able to say, something is wrong biochemically. Your chemistry is off. Yeah. I went back to bed, laid there until 8:00 in the morning, and called the psychiatrist and the therapist. Went in and worked with on the proper medication. That helped. Went into intensive or therapy 2, sometimes 3 days a week for a long time, deep, and figure out what was going on. And worked really hard at it. And fixed it, right? I'm fixed now. I'm happy. And then took another nosedive at year 29. And dummy, you fix it, but you have to maintain it.
Yeah.
And I explained that maintenance like this. If you go to the gym and you lose, that doesn't mean you've lost the 20 pounds. Maintain that weight loss, right? So then at year 20, from years 26 to 28, and I fixed it. And then I took a nosedive because I wasn't maintaining it. So then went back to therapy, got myself into another crap relationship. But then I was like, okay, I know how to fix this. Now I have to learn how to maintain this. And now I really need to do some deep, deep, deep work on figuring out why I keep seeking out meth. And so no, you ever cure yourself, but I think you learn how to manage it. And so I know when my anxiety might be getting a little out of control. I know when I might find myself, and I now have the tools to know how to manage it. It'll never be cured. Manage it really well. And sometimes I do manage it
Yeah.
really, really well, but sometimes I manage it. I don't get it right. But I've also part of it is that sometimes you won't get it right. And you have to allow yourself to go through it. So no, you don't cure yourself. You learn how to manage it.
So did you make the decision that 2 marriages was enough, or are there more marriages to talk about?
So then I said, well, I'm just going to be single for a while. Nobody's ever going to want a 20-something-year-old that, I think I was 27. Nobody's going to want a 27-year-old that's had two failed marriages. Nobody's going to want me. Thought I was going to stay single, but I didn't. A crappy relationship. But that crappy relationship taught me so much. That one taught me so much. And I was with that person for a long time. And we split up. And again, who's going to want somebody that's been divorced twice? And I have a boyfriend now. And nothing like my father. I had to make a very, very conscious effort to not let myself seek out that kind of man.
Yeah.
And he could care less. I have been married and divorced twice. That's not how he views me. He's friends from when I used to date. And to think marriage in the cards, I'm done, and ironically, this fella is my engineer on board.
I wonder what on earth is attracting to the gorgeous captain of a multi-million-dollar yacht that understands itself and understands other people. So, yeah, poor guy. It must be a nightmare for him. And so did you...
Yeah.
That's fact. Did you learn the importance of living yourself? Do you live yourself now?
Oh my God, I'm my own best. Such a great question because I'm my own best friend and I love myself so much. And I got to a place, the coolest place to get to. I got to a place just before I met him that I really truly wanted to, because I didn't need anybody. Fine staying at home on a Friday night, watching a movie, eating myself. In fact, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my own company. I wanted to be with myself. I could dinner on a Friday night and sit at a table for myself and let everybody look at me like, who's the weirdo sitting alone? But I was so content. I'm my own best friend. And I love myself, and I don't need a partner. I don't need a boyfriend. I need me, and I have me, and me shows up every time I need me.
That I think we truly understand ourselves when we recognize and accept that we don't need somebody else to complete us in the Hollywood sense of things. We having people in our lives, friends, family, loved ones, partners, lovers, etc., are all wonderful, but we are enough in and of ourselves. I think it's such an important thing. And to anybody that's listening that has suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideation, just know that there is another side to things, where there is an upside. And I've been in a very dark place as well, and thankfully we don't have guns in the UK. And you come through it, and you recognise that that would just have been the worst thing for me, not for other people. Because like you say, people always say, what about your children or your parents or your family or whatever? Of course. But when you get to that stage, you're thinking about yourself. And I think you've got to
You don't care.
recognize that, yeah, you don't care. And well, you get into your head, actually, the best thing for everybody else would be if I was doing it. I'm not adding value, I'm taking value from people as well. But you do get to a place, and you've seen it here with this Kelly and yourself. You get through it, and you recognize what would have been the worst thing to do, because you learn that you are
When you
valuable.
get through it.
It is. Yes,
Oh, when
it
you
is.
get to the other, like now it's just like, then that's why I want to share with everybody. And please, anybody listening, like you said, that's doing it or idealizing it, there, hang in there, do the work, dig deep. I mean, put the energy and the effort
Yep.
in, do the work, because the other side of it is so beautiful. And the other
Yeah.
side, all of the work that you have to do to get there is so rewarding, so fantastic.
Mm.
Takes a lot.
Because
Done.
it
Get
is,
there.
it is,
Takes
and
a lot of work.
it does. And no matter what somebody feels and thinks when they're at that stage, it's important to know it is not your fault. It is absolutely not something that is wrong with you. Yes, you might have a chemical imbalance, or you might need therapy or discussions or medication. Don't be scared of those things. They're there to help. You'll get through it by being the person that you absolutely can be. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So it's interesting you say your relationships with your engineers. I was going to ask, you sort of get the view that it's a relatively transient life being a crew member on a yacht, and I just wondered, how do you maintain relationships and trust in such circumstances when crew members come and go, or do crew members tend to sort of lock in, work with one captain, and you've had the same crew for years and years?
My job, I love the industry. There's a lot of shit in it. And there's a lot of drug and abuse. There's a lot of sexual harassment. There's a lot of bullying. There's a lot of burnout. There's loneliness. And look, you may be thinking, well, every industry has that. So well, you're right. Every industry have that. But what's different is we live in a pressure cooker. Imagine at 5 o'clock, we don't clock out. We don't go home. If you're in the middle of the ocean, that's it. You're there. So if you're having issues with somebody at work, if you work with somebody that's a bully, or you work with somebody that's harassing you, you're probably still not done with the workday, for one, because we work long hours.
Yeah.
But there's a good chance they're even your roommate. There's a good chance they're your roommate. They're sitting at the dinner table with you, the breakfast table. So the difference is, in our industry, we live cooker. And that is huge. So yeah, there is a lot of crew tour. I'm fortunate. Maybe I like to think this goes back to leadership. Top officer has been with me for almost 5 years. My engineer, almost 4 years. Stu came to me from within program I was with at the last, so she's only been with me for 3.5 years. When I left my last entire crew with me. So I kind of want to give myself a pat on the doing
Absolutely.
something right.
Yeah.
And so my boat and my crew has stuck together. I've had come and gone, that some that for whatever reason my program didn't fit. It was hard for me. Beating myself up. What am I doing wrong? Why are they not fitting? And finally, they would find the right boat for them. And I've had to look is that your style of leadership might not be wrong, but it might not be for everybody. You know. But so no, yes, there is a lot of turnover. Fortunately, not. It's relationships. It's hard. It's really, really hard. I mean, it's just, think about it. If you're gone at sea for months at a time and you're leaving somebody behind, that's hard. There's a lot of feel. But then,
Yeah.
My engineer, when I met him, I told him, I was like, look, if we worked together, I wouldn't be in a relationship with you. There's no, but that's hard. The engineer and the
Yeah.
captain work side by side. And also think about just the other dynamics too. He's Hispanic, different cultural. He's older than me. He from a slightly different generation than me. Um, so and I'm the captain.
So you talked about the dynamics of dealing with a crew and the complexities of that and crew. Obviously, the other element on the boat is the passengers, people that are the clients that are using the boat. How do you handle that relationship? I imagine that the part of the thing about being on a super yacht is the party vibe, is the atmosphere, is drinking alcohol. How do you handle it when passengers perhaps want to do something differently than you would advise?
I was, and which a lifetime seaman said. He said, "Would you rather lose your job or lose your license?" And that really hit for me. That, like, what do you do
Yeah.
when you've got a rowdy passenger that's pressuring you? When you're in a situation like that?
Mhm.
And I thought, you're right. Would I rather lose my job or lose my license? I really struck a chord with me. And so I have. I mean, I ran one of the busiest charter boats in the industry for a while. And so we would run into it on occasionally. Fortunate
Mhm.
that worked really, really hard to have the crew and to try to match us with us. But not all created equal, and sometimes just the desire for the commission gets in the way, and they will put whatever group of people on the vessel. And I had an instance where someone brought drugs on board, and my crew alerted me to it, and I didn't even call management. I went down and I said, "I'm aware that you've got this on board of it now, and all of it now, or I will call the authorities and I will take this boat right to the dock, and they will be there waiting on us." And I expected a little bit of pushback, because they're paying for this vacation. And looked at me and said, "Okay." Um, some folks that, yes, get a little too tipsy, and you have to think about this from a safety perspective. You're on the water when you're away from it, out in the middle of nowhere, late at night. If you lose a passenger, you're not going to find them. So it's
No.
really, you really have to think about your job, and you have to think of this. And so I give my stews full to cut somebody off, to stop serving someone,
Yeah.
and rely on them to know from their experience as a student and as a bartender, to know when someone's had too much. And very much so that if there's any one of us crew members that thinks of too much to drink, that if any one of us has some concern, stop serving that person. And that some captains get a lot of push from alt, and a lot of push from charter managers to say yes to the guests no matter what, you know. But no, owner tell me something one time, and he was so right. He said, and I was like, "Hey, you, you do pay me to tell you, no, it's not, no, the weather's bad, or no, it's a good idea to go here." It extends into if he's drinking too much, or if friends are wanting to bring board, he pays me to say no. Um, I don't want to say, oh, that's the last thing I want to do. Of course, I want to be able to say, yes, we can go here and we can go there and we can do this and we can do that. But that's not always the case. And so, and it's my personality too. I've always been kind of what you see, which is what you, with a side of stubborn. I've always been, I know the difference between right and wrong.
Yeah.
Both of my parents instilled that in me, knowing the difference between what's right and wrong and holding your ground on that. And again, I can't express enough how much it resonated with me when this said, lose your job or lose your license. You know what? You're absolutely right.
Because I think your primary responsibility is the safety of everybody on board the vessel. Entertainment, enjoying yourself comes second.
Number one.
Safety is absolutely number one, isn't
it? Safety. My job of the day, my one job that is to make sure everybody comes back home safely with all their fingers and toes.
Yes. That's a good metric. I think you've already touched on this. I think I know what the answer might be, but is it still a relatively sexist industry? As in, I'm assuming there are still more male captains than female captains. Is it twice as hard to become a female captain? Is it much harder? Is it something you'd recommend to a niece or a daughter or a daughter of a best friend of yours? Is it easier now than it was?
Would totally recommend it.
Cool.
Yeah, but only 2% of us are captains.
Right.
You know, it is male dominated, but yes, it was. But I'll say this: if it wasn't for the men in this industry, I'd be where I am. I wouldn't. I've had so many in this industry that have been my champion, have been my cheerleader, have pushed me when I that respect me, that admire me, which is pretty cool. I got a message the other day, this young man that says, I've been following you for years now. I admire you so much. And I'm like, wow, but yes, it is male dominated. I'm under a little bit more of a spotlight. Like I can't fuck up.
Yeah.
Because we'll be noticed for many reasons now. Noticed because I'm a woman. Like, and when I was younger, I kind of thought, the young captain, I kind of thought that maybe people were waiting on me to mess up. When I would approach a dock and it would be a restaurant there and the restaurant would be full and everyone would look up onto the flybridge and there's a woman driving. Everybody set their forks. They turned around, all eyes on me. They were waiting on me to mess up. Or because I could hear some of them say that, oh, it's a girl driving. But now I realize the majority of them were just in awe. I never forget, a couple of years ago, I pulled up to this restaurant full of people, Friday night, jam-packed. They're all, but I'm focusing on what I'm doing. I get done, we get tied up. The whole restaurant stands up and claps for me. That was cool. Maybe one or two are waiting on you to mess it up. Yes, they're really it's really, really freaking cool. They're like, you get them, girl. You lead by example. And it makes them, what I've learned now, is them. Just by doing it, young and see that it's possible. And so, yes, I would absolutely tell anyone that wants to be a captain into the male-dominated side of it, the engineering, the deck department, absolutely go for it. Is it changing? It is, slowly, but it's changing. Women on deck now, more and more women engineering department. Yeah, it was hard. Yeah, I still am under a little spotlight, but I'll take it. And I'll always give the men in the industry the credit for helping me get to where I am.
Well, if you waited to meet a female captain, you'd have been struggling, I guess, at the time when you first stepped foot on that boat and it was a male captain. It's going to be, isn't it? So would you say that you are at your happiest on the water?
Oh yeah. Like I can be having just a crap day.
Mhm.
And as soon as we toss the lines and get underway, I'm just like, look, just come, it's oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've been in the shipyard a while.
Yeah.
And just yesterday we put one of the boats back in the water at
Mhm.
my crew at the marina to help them tie up. And we all just said, doesn't it just feel so much better to be back on the water, back at the marina?
Mm.
Change of locale was not much, and I was tying up one of the tenders.
Mm.
But the energy that came over all of us was like
Do you have a favorite place that you sailed?
the Bahamas, specifically the Exumas,
Mm.
and more specifically one certain anchorage called O'Brien's Key. And it's not just because it's beautiful. The Exumas in the Bahamas is absolutely gorgeous. You'll never find a prettier place on earth. But more than that, the people are such beautiful people. And at the end of the day, what makes the yachting industry so amazing is the people. It's knowing that you could go anywhere in this world. If you needed something, someone would be there to help you. It's small, but such a large industry. A really cool feeling to that you could go anywhere in the world and somebody's going to know somebody that can lend you a hand if you need it. So the Bahamas is my favorite, but mostly because of the people.
So you obviously invest a lot of energy in the people and in the work that you do. And we know it's important to keep our own energy levels high. But how do you practice self-care? What do you do to look after yourself?
A couple of people have been asking me that question lately because I think they see how busy my schedule jam-packed it's
Yeah.
been. I just got a WhatsApp message from a friend of mine this morning, actually, that said, hey, make sure you're taking care of yourself. I know when it's time for me to connect.
Mhm.
And I can feel it because I usually get a little too anxious. I can feel my chest. So sometimes it's as simple as, my boyfriend's social. And he also doesn't do what I do, so his social doesn't get drained like it does.
Yeah.
So sometimes I just have to tell him, Saturday night, I just want to Netflix and chill. Like I don't want to go anywhere. Like I just want. So I know when my social battery is flat.
Mhm.
I'm good at 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 taking a break most of the time. But then sometimes I know too when maybe I have a big event coming up or there's a good up coming up and I need to push myself a little bit.
Yeah.
Really, what it boils down to is I'm extremely passionate about being a captain and both being an influencer or a brand or whatever you want to call it, a speaker. I'm so passionate. And when you are passionate about what you do, that gives less energy to do it. And I remember having a vision about just this with one of my first yacht owners. Well, my first yacht owner. And he said, when you're passionate about, it all works out. But right.
Yeah.
So the energy comes from me loving what I do. But when I get tired, I feel it in my chest and I know, okay, it's time to Netflix and chill. You know.
Definitely. So this is a hard question to answer, but What is it like being you? What is it like being Captain Kelly Gordon?
It's funny you ask because one, it's hard to answer. And two, like from what perspective? Some people tell me, "Oh, you're a celebrity now," and I'm like, I'm not. I'm just somebody that talks a lot and puts their face on social media. It's cool though. I never thought I would have a publicist. Like, what yacht captain has a publicist? And she was with me at the boat show. I literally could not go 2 steps without running it. And it's cool. It's cool because I was saying, you inspired me. You saved my life. You made me want to live again. So the brand side of Captain, it's really, really cool. It's sometimes daunting and scary because I know that people really do listen to every word that I say. They hang on words, so I better get it right when I do say it. So that can be scary in itself. It's a lot to shoulder, but it's something that I'm happy to take on because, I a message. Thank you. That's the man side of me. Ellie side of me, I just work hard too. And I'm happy and I love to smile and I love to laugh and I work really hard. I like being me.
What's next? So what does your future hold?
I just launched a nonprofit and I'm so thank you. Launching a no small feat, especially dealing with the IRS in the United States.
Yeah.
And the non-free minds matter. And it's designed for any yachty, whether they're on board or they're shoreside support. If you need counseling, if you need therapy, the Yachty Minds Matter will pay for it. For as many sessions as you need for as long as you need it. And it will also pay for a first aid course if you would like. So that you can try to be a little bit ahead of the game, health game. And be so excited. I didn't think that this would be such exceptionally busy. In my social media team and I thought we were going to have maybe a quiet week now where we can all breathe a bit. But I received my first 2 donations to put when I was still standing on stage announcing.
Wow.
And what's next is hopefully to really grow and get the yachties the help that they need. To continue to grow my presence, to continue to push for a better, healthier industry, but also even outside of the industry, because mental health just isn't for us yachties.
No.
It's for everybody. And I say mental a thing. It's a big thing. It's a life thing, mind thing. It's a thing that we have to take care of. We have to cherish. And my friend said it best the other day. He said, "You stamp on the world, don't you?" And I said, "I do. I leave it a better place." So that's what's next.
That's that's pretty awesome. I'll put the links to the nonprofit in the notes and stuff, and I would highly recommend people have a look at Kelly's website and all the right. It's just so interesting. So I find it list. Yeah, I think that's a great thing to do. This should I ask this? This is probably an old question to ask, but and I'm sure I know what the answer is, but you are exactly the sort of person that should be in politics, like formally, but I'm sensing that's not in your future. But you've got the experience, the life, the passion, all those things that actually politicians really, really need. Is it something you would ever consider?
You were the second person to tell me that. Um,
Uh,
Back in that little town that I was introduced to the industry in
yeah,
Beaufort, North Carolina, there's a fella uh, that was a big part of the town. He wasn't in politics per se, but he was a big part of it. He was
yeah,
actually a retired gastroenterologist. And he
okay.
said, "You should be in politics. If that's where life takes me, and if life there, so that I can make the biggest difference that way,
Mhm.
why not?"
It's funny, but yeah, just after just over an hour with you, it's just yeah, it's so obvious to me that and it's funny, isn't it? We tend not to get the politicians we deserve, really, but I think sometimes the people that should be in it. But I totally echo and champion what you're saying is that, and I think so many more people would do so well to believe this, is that wherever we can make the biggest positive impact is where we should be. If that's the absolute leader of the yachting community, if that's in politics, if that's in education, whatever it is, wherever you can make the biggest difference. And as you said, just leave the world a better place
Just
is,
leave
yeah,
the
that's all we
world
can ever
better.
aspire to do.
You're right.
I think it's a perfect place to end. So I just want to thank you so, so much for your time, for for giving your time, for sitting in your car and talking to me, and hopefully you get back out on the water probably very soon. It's been an absolute joy. And I hope one day we get
Having
into it.
me.
That's a pleasure.
Thank you for having me because you are I've done a lot of podcasts. You are the best podcast
Oh,
I have ever engaged with. Thank you so much for having question or thought, your pauses, your very intentional pauses during the podcast. Best cast host ever. Hands down.
oh, that's so good. It's just about being interested in other people, isn't it? You obviously are, because I am. Just boring if you want. I've done so much in the last hour or so, and hopefully people that listen will learn so much as well. So, yeah,
I hope
it's
so
a
too.
pleasure. Thank you. Take care of
Thanks
yourself.
so much. You too.